Hey guys, it's Tim coming at you with a brand new Marvel Cinematic Universe video for this week. I think we all can agree that Spider-Man has one of the most well-known and memorable rogues galleries in the entirety of comic books. Despite this, however, there's still a lot of them who have yet to receive a live-action adaptation. So in honor of Spider-Man Homecoming coming out next year, I've decided to make a top 5 list of the 5 villains I'd like to see show up in future Spider-Man films. Because of this, I'm limiting myself to only characters who have yet to appear in live action. So if they appeared in the Sam Raimi films, the Webb films, or if they were in the MCU already, they will not be making it onto this list. With all that out of the way, let's get started. Number 5. My number 5 choice goes to Mac Gargan, aka the Scorpion. Originally an investigative reporter who was hired by J. Jonah Jameson to figure out how Peter Parker got images of Spider-Man so easily, he was unsuccessful and eventually used in an experiment which gave him superhuman strength, durability, speed, reflexes, and the ability to stick to walls. He was also outfitted with a suit with a super strong mechanical tail which basically acted as a fifth limb. Honestly, one of the main reasons why I want Scorpion to show up in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is because I just think that a fight between him and Spider-Man would be very interesting to see. They have very similar power sets without being direct carbon copies of one another. Plus, the MCU is no strangers to mechanical suits that have the appearance of animals. Number 4. My number 4 choice goes to the Hobgoblin. But exactly which version of him? Well, honestly, I'd kinda be fine whether we got the mainstream 616 version of the Hobgoblin, or something more along the lines of the Ultimate version. With the success of the Hulk in the MCU, I can definitely see the larger, more bestial, fire-spewing Hobgoblin fighting against Spider-Man in this universe. But the more traditional Hobgoblin would definitely work just as well. If not better, since the Hobgoblin is probably most notable for being the villain who is able to give Spider-Man the runaround for the longest period of time, using a variety of tricks and plans to stay one step ahead of Spider-Man and keep his secret identity hidden for a huge period of time, even able to pull off a few misdirects throughout that period. Plus, using the Hobgoblin would be a good way of getting a Green Goblin-like character into the MCU without necessarily using the Green Goblin for the third time. Number 3. My number 3 choice goes to Cletus Cassidy, also known as Carnage. Originally a psychotic serial killer, Cletus Cassidy became one of Spider-Man's greatest villains after bonding with the spawn of the Venom symbiote known as Carnage. This made him an even more powerful threat than even Venom himself, since he had all of Venom's abilities plus a few new ones like the ability to form tentacles and different bladed weaponry out of his symbiote. And with Cassidy's propensity towards violence and killing, he quickly became one of Spider-Man's greatest foes. Despite this, however, Carnage, and especially Cletus Cassidy, hasn't shown up in a huge number of adaptations. Usually because Carnage is viewed as the spawn of Venom, and therefore Venom has to be set up in order to have Carnage appear. But honestly, with all the different origins that Venom's had, either being an experiment on Earth or being an alien life form, I can honestly see Carnage being able to be created completely without Venom should they choose to. Plus, since pretty much every villain who's shown up in the MCU so far has basically had some justifiable goal for why they were doing what they did, it'd be nice to just have someone who wanted to kill for the sake of killing. Number 2. My number 2 choice goes to Quentin Beck, also known as Mysterio. After starting off as a stuntman in Hollywood, he then turned his attention to special effects, a field that he very much excelled in. However, he felt that he wasn't getting the recognition that he deserved, but he didn't have the look or talent to be an actor or the patience to be a director. So he turned to a life of crime after someone offhandedly mentioned that the best way to become recognizable would be to take out a superhero. So he chose Spider-Man, and their long rivalry began. Mysterio would definitely be a very meta character to have in a movie, considering that his entire power set is based around what is essentially movie magic. But he'd definitely be a very visually interesting character to see. He's the master of illusions and special effects, and that definitely would lead to some very interesting visuals throughout the entirety of any film he appeared in. Number 1. And finally, my number one choice goes to Sergei Kravenov, otherwise known as Kraven the Hunter. After being born in Russia, he later became a big game hunter in Africa. He honed his skills going head-to-head with some of the most dangerous game on the planet. However, he eventually got bored of this and decided to turn his attention to something more worthy of his time. After being tipped off about Spider-Man and all of his amazing powers, Kraven made it his goal to hunt down Spider-Man as his new greatest prize. I'll be honest here, I've always wanted to see Kraven the Hunter adapted into some live-action role. He definitely has a very unique MO when it comes to why he does what he does, in that he doesn't really profit off of fighting Spider-Man, he's just going up against him to prove that he's better than him. And this rivalry eventually led to one of the most well-known Spider-Man stories of all time, Kraven's Last Hunt. He's a fairly simple villain in terms of what he can do, but he definitely can create a lot of interesting chase scenes and fight scenes with all the different skills and traps he can set up in order to ensnare Spider-Man. And with that, those are my top 5 choices for who I'd like to see show up in a future Spider-Man movie in the MCU. However, with a rogues gallery as big as Spider-Man's is, there's definitely going to be a lot of different options for what characters can show up. So let us know in the comments which characters you'd like to see show up in the MCU. And if you've liked what you've seen here and you haven't yet, feel free to subscribe. We have a Patreon account you can donate to if you feel so inclined. And until next time, this has been Tim from the Hybrid Network, signing out.